It's a great question. So actually, out of my MBA, I started in the medical technology industry, and that, I will be completely honest, had a degree of serendipity. When I came out of INSEAD, I was looking for the right place, but I ended up in medical technology for about 12 years, and very quickly found that I loved what I did there in terms of the patient engagement, about always being focused on trying to do the right thing and so on. So when the opportunity came to move into pharmaceuticals about 15 years ago, that was a very logical connection. And then finally the move to Otsuka 3 years ago, where we truly are passionate about mental illness and about patients we serve with mental illness. That speaks very much to me. All of us are affected by mental illness somewhere in the family or friends or whatever, and so that speaks very strongly to me. Often challenging to explain to non-Japanese audiences, but Jisho is really the spirit of showing achievement in small steps and building on those achievements. We call it actualization, but it's really more about the fact that you have to demonstrate what you can do. So somebody who comes new into the company, they're greeted with respect and with trust, but they have to demonstrate relatively soon what they're actually contributing and so on. And with that comes growth opportunities and so on. And the creativity side, the shuzeze, is again the same thing, which is we like to say that we do things differently. And you look at what we've been talking about here, digital medicines, what we're doing in digital therapeutics, that's clearly different. And that's about encouraging people to do things outside the box, genuinely to think outside the box. We actually invest and incentivize in innovation. We actually pay people to do innovation competitions and to take forward funky projects. It's a landmark moment because this was the first drug-device combination and the first ingestible sensor ever approved by the FDA. We've been working with Proteus for several years now, and over the years we've both learned a lot. It's been a fascinating collaboration. It's had its challenges at different times. A pharma company has a certain way of doing things, a tech company has a certain way of doing things, and we've really had to learn how to collaborate. And yesterday, Andrew Wright and David O'Reilly from the two companies really spoke to that and how we built that culture of innovation. Digital medicines, it's a complex system. It's the sensor and the pill, it's the patch, it's the app, and then it's the platform that's available to caregivers and so on. So the sheer complexity, it would have put many other people off, but the way we persevered jointly, driven it through, and we really do see over time, as we add more products to it, as we make it scalable, this has the ability to transform treatment for people with serious mental illness in sense of optimizing treatments that already exist. One area indeed, as Andy talked about more than me, is that whole area of new form factors, new wearables. That's clearly something we're going to have to continue to innovate in. Second, I think we're going to have to see the functionality of what we provide and so on. I think the third element is clearly, as we get lots of patients and so on, there is the opportunity to pivot from not just selling a drug or selling that, but to selling outcomes, to selling data, to selling analytics. And how and when that pivot takes place is going to be one of the interesting questions. Plus, you can imagine bringing in other technologies, digital diagnostics, digital biomarkers, and so on, to really get a much more comprehensive understanding of the patient and to give that information back to the patient and to the caregiver. I always say succeeding as a leader in Otsuka requires two things which are somewhat contradictory. We're not a culture where people tell you what to do. We're not a culture where I can tell people what to do. But people need to have the self-confidence to act based on their experience and everything. But they have to have the humility to take other people with them. So it's not a culture where you can tell people to do things. It's not a culture where you can instruct. It's a culture where you have to build, not necessarily consensus, because consensus can mean lowest common denominator. You have to build alignment, you have to have the courage to move forward, and you have to have the ability to take people with you and keep them engaged when you do that. And that's what I try to focus on as a leader, and that's what we encourage in leaders across the organization.